you rise in either body or in spirit and join us in a Mother's Day litany. It's the insert that's printed in your order of service. I'll read the regular typeface, and you respond with the words in italics. To those who gave birth this year to their first child,
we celebrate with you.
To those who lost a child this year,
we mourn with you.
To those who are in the trenches with little ones every day and wear the badge of food stains,
we appreciate you.
To those who experience loss through miscarriage, failed adoptions, or running away,
we mourn with you.
To those who walk the hard path of infertility, fraught with pokes, prods, tears, and disappointment,
we walk with you. Forgive us when we say foolish things. We don't mean to make this harder than it is.
To those who are foster moms, mentor moms, and spiritual moms,
we need you.
To those who have warm and close relationships with your children,
we celebrate with you.
To those who have disappointment, frustration, heartache, and distance with your children,
we sit with you.
To those who lost their mothers this year,
We grieve with you.
to those who experienced abuse at the hands of your own mother,
We acknowledge your experience and sit with you.
to those who lived through driving tests, medical tests, and the overall testing of motherhood,
We are better for having you in our midst.
to those who have aborted children,
We remember them and you Mother's Day.
to those who are single and long to be married and mothering your own children,
We mourn that life has not turned out the way you want for it to be.
to those who step parents,
We walk with you on these complex paths.
to those who envisioned lavishing love on grandchildren, yet that dream is yet to be or not to be,
We grieve with you.
to those who will have emptier nests in the upcoming year,
We grieve and rejoice with you.
to those who place children up for adoption,
We commend you for your selfishness and remember how you hold that child in your heart.
and to those who are pregnant with new life, both expected and surprising.
We anticipate with you. This Mother's Day, we walk with you.
Mothering is not for the faint of heart,
and
we have real warriors in our midst.
We remember you.
So when I was growing up, I had a very loving and also sometimes competitive relationship with my mother. As a child, I adored her and wanted to be around her all the time. She was a librarian, and she and I shared a love of books, of story, of literature, and learning. Whenever I expressed an interest in something, the next day, 10 books on the subject would arrive at my home. Like many mothers and daughters, when I hit my teen years, I wanted to define myself against her. And I used the unhelpful and also inaccurate story of feminism to frame my adolescent project. My mother is an introvert, so I pushed myself to be an extrovert. My mother wanted me to do housework with her, so I declared housework unfeminist and said that I would work harder at my schoolwork instead. I wanted to be an intellectual, I said, as though my mother was not also an intellectual. My parents decided I could cut the grass. It wasn't until I was in my 20s when I began to more fully understand my mother's version of strength and all of the power and the depth I had inherited from her. One of my best child and early adulthood friends had a much more difficult relationship with her mother. Her mother was fearful, controlling, and at times emotionally abusive. This was such a stark contrast to my own experience that I had trouble making sense of it. It wasn't until early adulthood that I began to understand the legacy of abuse in my best friend's family. Her mother had been physically abused by her grandfather, a damaged man who had wreaked havoc on the entire family. And that legacy was passed down in both substance abuse and in broken homes. My best friend's mother worked hard to filter out that legacy of abuse from her own children. In her attempts to prevent her own children from experiencing any of the pain that she had grown up with, she tamped down her feelings so hard that the legacy was passed down through an experience of deep control with periodic bursts of rage. Now that I'm watching my friend raise her own children, I see her struggle to not continue to pass on that legacy of pain. And sometimes she's able to shelter her girls from that inheritance, but sometimes it bursts through in her own fits of grief and rage. And I see the girls already picking up pieces of it. One of the many reasons that loving is so hard is that any relationship of love means opening oneself to grief. In her poem, Blackwater Woods, Mary Oliver writes, "To live in this world, you must be able to do 3 things. To love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it, and when the time comes to let it go, to let it go." All loving relationships require this. We will have to let go of them all at some point, and often we will need to remember how to let go a little bit within that. They balance on that teetering precipice between fierce love and the inevitable letting go. So Mother's Day is a celebration both of fierce love and the beauty of loving relationships between mothers and children, and also a reminder of the pain of loss, when the potential for that beauty is either unrealized or lost. We've all experienced some sort of loss within the framework of the word mother. From complex relationships to miscarriage, to leaving for college or for one's own life, to infertility or abortion, to being judged for how one raises one's children, to feeling culturally ostracized for not having children. We've also all experienced some kind of love in this context, whether that love was from our own mother or experiencing the life-giving and unconditional love for one's children, or from having chosen family take us into their hearts, or from receiving nurturing from aunts and uncles or grandparents, neighbors, maybe members of the church. There are places for all of us to both connect and to grieve on this day. As a community in which experiences with mother are sure to be both varied and complex, we can celebrate a beautiful thing that we might call mothering. Mothering is nurturing, it's caring for, it's helping to develop loving another person in ways that both comfort them and help them grow into that thing that life is longing for itself. Changing the noun into a verb allows us to celebrate it as something we do. Rather than being statically identified with individuals, it's an evolving process of love that we can all initiate and which most mothers are already engaged in. It allows mothers the chance to choose which pieces of inheritance serve mothering, serve to nurture and sustain the next generation, and which pieces of inheritance it might be time to put down. It also recognizes that the people who do mothering, some of whom are mothers, some of whom are not, also do many other things too. Sometimes they're mothering and sometimes they're writing. Sometimes they're dancing, sometimes they're resting or running a company or receiving mothering themselves. So how can we work with traditional concepts to both create space space for multiple experiences and identities to exist at the same time and still continue to celebrate and honor that which we find valuable? How can we honor and love what exists right now, as well as open ourselves to broader possibilities? And what about when what exists right now is painful or difficult? What is life-giving about the present, however wonderful or awful the present moment is? How do we carry inheritance from the past into the present? And how are we packing its basket for the future? A few years ago, I participated in a training given by Tewa women to help people understand indigenous experiences of intergenerational trauma. Los Alamos National Lab in New Mexico sits on Tewa land. And our Tewa woman trainer brought out a series of mesh bags full of rocks as an illustration for us to understand intergenerational trauma. She showed us the first bag of rocks about the size of a sock, with rocks in it that were about the size of grapes. She explained that in the first generation, the pain is this size, chunky gravel or grape size. But if it's not dealt with, and if it's passed on in the next generation, that pain increases, because it includes an entire lifetime of pain before it, as well as the new experiences of the second generation. So this time, she took out another bag, a little bit bigger, with rocks the size of eggs in it. Again, she explained that if left unattended, the inheritance of pain from that second generation gets passed on again to the third generation, and she took out another bag. Now this bag was the size of a basketball, and the rocks in it were the size of oranges. Then she showed us that if you took out a grape-sized rock from the first bag, it meant that an egg-sized rock got removed from the second bag, and an orange-sized rock got removed from the third bag. So the bad news is that the load gets heavier with every generation if the pain is left unattended. But the good news is that each generation has an opportunity to unload some of those rocks. And every time you unload them, the load gets lighter for the next generation. Each generation has the opportunity to put the pain down, to not pass it on. But this requires acknowledging its presence, the work of letting it go, and imagining a better future for the next generation. The present, this moment now, contains the seeds of our longing, of life's longing for itself. The thing that we're longing for exists now, in our very longing for it. There's something of the love or the work or the rest that we want, that we can experience right now just in the fact that we can imagine that thing. Experts at goal planning tells us that people are more likely to reach their goals by doing something concrete and specific that moves them forward towards that goal today, even if it's a very small thing. It helps you move toward the goal because it brings the imagined future into present reality in a concrete way, allowing you to experience a piece of that reality now. So, how is what you want already present in your life? Where is it? How can you enjoy that thing and nourish it right now? You can examine the traditions in your life and the practices in your family against that longed for future. Is the practice that you're in today bringing you forward towards the future that you long for? Is the practice you're engaged in today removing a rock or giving a flower to the next generation? We can judge traditions on whether they give life to the present. and whether they're leading us towards our hoped-for future. Our inheritance can be stunning, either beautiful or cruel. We pass the basket from generation to generation, knowing that this children's souls live in the house of tomorrow. Knowing that what we pass on in that basket of humanity is the tangled bramble of our own souls. Tragedy, beauty, rage, love, fear. Both candy kisses and big rocks are in that basket. Despite all our trying, we can neither hide away from our children nor imprint ourselves upon them. The next generation will learn just as we did, by witnessing us, by bathing in our behavior, by soaking up our souls. I know now that my love of literature, my ambition, and my hidden introvert come from my mother. As an adult, I can see that my inheritance of love and intellect and family come from her, and I know now that I'm one of the lucky ones. And Mom, I'm sorry I was ever naive and sheltered enough to take that for granted. I celebrate you and I thank the universe for you. But I'm also privileged. I'm privileged because my family doesn't bear the marks of intergenerational trauma that can come from a variety of places and often comes from racism. There was a Mother's Day march on Washington this weekend of mothers whose children were killed by the police, and it was mostly black and brown mothers who walked in that march. I also now look around and see my childhood friends' daughters scrambling to pick up the scraps of her love without cutting themselves on the edges of her rage. The pain that's been passed down generation to generation, with each new child doing their best to both take the good stuff and let go of the rest. The way that we string the bow shooting to the future is impacted by all that we carry from the past. There are choices that we can make. Choices we can make about what to set down, what to pick up, what sort of traditions we use to accentuate the inheritance that nurtures life and love. We can choose to give the next generation kisses instead of rocks. We can choose to raise those children as a community, rather than as isolated individuals who are struggling alone. And we can choose to mother each other. May it be so. Blessed be and amen. Will you rise in either body or in spirit and join us in our closing hymn number 149, Lift Up Your Voice and Sing.
There is
The archer is ready to shoot the arrow into the infinite. May we choose how to bend the bow, what rocks to unpack, how taut that line is. But the arrow and how it flies is out of our control. May it sing as it shoots towards the future. Blessed be, Amen. As we extinguish the light of the chalice here, may we carry its light and its warmth with us in our hearts.